thank you so much for coming on, CeCe.
Absolutely. I'm loving being here with you, Amy.
So I'll share how we met because I thought that was such an aligned moment. I was in Columbus at the Summit of Greatness. I'm from Canton. You're from Cleveland.
Yep.
And after the Summit of Greatness, I had asked Marissa Peer if she would have coffee with me, just kind of randomly on a whim. And she said yes. And she was meeting you after we had coffee. So you were like, hey, I'm from Cleveland. So why don't you share a little bit about yourself for people that are listening that, don't know you yet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amy. It was a beautiful meeting. And it's one of those moments, before I tell a little bit about me, I want to say about you is one of those moments that always make me smile, because I love when people, have to step out of their comfort zone in order to do something that they know the universe is whispering for them to do. Right. So there were thousands of people at this event, but it was you, Amy, who, there were thousands of people at this event. Many of them actually came to see Marissa particularly. She was obviously a hit at this event. She speaks to hundreds of thousands of people across the globe. And you said, of the 2,000, 3,000 people that were there, you said, I'm going to ask this lady to have coffee with me. What's the worst she can say? Right. And better than that, it was like, well, what's the best she can say? And I think you were just a living proof of that, of, what it feels like and what it looks like to step outside of one's comfort zone. So I love that.
Thanks.
No, you're welcome. Because I'm going to tell you, for me, my life has all been about stepping outside of one's comfort zone. I, grew up in inner city Cleveland, Ohio. My parents, funny story, I discovered after my dad passed away in 2002. And shortly after his passing, my sisters and I were, cleaning up his house, and we discovered that my parents actually divorced 4 years before I was born. So, right. So we all, we laugh. I used to say I was, I had a single mom growing up, but now I realize I don't know. I didn't even have that.
4 years before you were born?
Yeah. It's the funniest story ever. She says, she's like, I didn't know we were divorced. I had filled out the paperwork, but it never came back to me. So I didn't know we were divorced. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. But, I was raised by my mom and my 3 older sisters in inner city Cleveland, Ohio. And, it was just one of those upbringings that you hear about on, these sad stories, like life really came hard to my front door, and, there was a lot of adversity, a lot of challenge, a lot of abuse, certainly not by my mom, but just by other people, unfortunately, who had access to me as a kid. Lost one of my major influences in my life, which is my older sister. Lost her to murder by the time I was 14 years old. So it was, one of those, it was just one of those really, really tough upbringings that could end up someone being, certainly very jaded. I should statistically, right? Like I should be, a mother of 6 kids with 5 fathers and
in jail,
in jail and using drugs and, but because of a lot of, I just saw an example of possibility when I was a young kid. I had a godmother when I was younger who just lived life a little bit differently. She was a successful Black woman in the 1970s. Like I remember her driving a Cadillac and living in this really big house. I remember going to her house and her carpets were white, and there was a bedroom in her house that nobody even slept in, right? Like, so for me, it was, it was the example of possibility. And I saw that example, and there was something in it that spoke to me, and just that little spark, that little snippet of what life could potentially look like was attractive to me. And so I just kept following that little light, that little dot, until, I ended up, I don't know, paying my way through an all-girls Catholic high school so I could get out of the inner city school that I was in, and then received a scholarship to this amazing Jesuit university here in Cleveland, Ohio, and then being chosen for a master's fellowship program in New York. And just, again, it was always following that little dot that was placed there, watching my godmother live life, unapologetically.
Wow. Yeah, that is an amazing story of, like you said, what could have been just, and I think what we see a lot is people in bad situations that just can't see their way out of it.
Yeah.
And so you are just saying like how you saw this light, this tiny possibility, and just followed it, even through the pain and the adversity that you probably still faced through your high school, through your, through all of that, you still just kept weaving through it to come out on the other side.
Absolutely. There was, it's interesting because one of the biggest weights, if you will, that was on me, one of the biggest weights, I had been sexually abused by the time I was 4. And I didn't recognize the impact that kind of abuse has on a girl in particular. And statistically, what happens to girls who are molested at that age, they will either, 3 things pretty much happen. 1, they become asexual, right? Like they're terrified of anything and they're almost asexual. But that's the smallest percentage. The next largest percentage is that they become, gay or bisexual, or, somewhere in that realm. And that happens for a lot. And then the biggest majority, they become hypersexual. And so unfortunately for me, that was the category that I found myself in. And so that was the biggest weight on my life. And it impacted me to such a tremendous degree throughout my life, so that I never had, it was difficult to connect with somebody emotionally when you feel the pain, this burden on you. Like it's difficult to connect with people, on a real emotional level. And so, again, so I had the pain, but that even causes pain, right? Like, so I had the pain of that. And so I'm still trying to weave through this life, trying to, have relationships with people, open and honest, and trying to, create something greater for myself and for my life with the burden of this upon my shoulders, if that makes sense, Amy. And so, yeah, even carrying that weight, I still maintained this, I got to follow this light. I got to follow this light. I got to follow this light. So yeah, it was really, really challenging to be able to do those both.
Well, and we kind of met just because of Marissa Peer, who, obviously is the founder of the Rapid Transformational Therapy. And I know you've done the training. Did this at all tie into, like, how did you know that you were even, 4 years old in that situation? Did you have memories of it? Or was this tied into, like, maybe doing RTT and then realizing that?
So, it's funny. RTT was such an incredible gift to me. Marissa happens to be one of my best friends on the planet. We met years ago at an event, and we always laugh and say we fell in love at the event within hours of meeting one another. And so just as our friendship grew and developed, and I also do a lot of, I also, kind of partner and co-create with, just some extraordinary people on the planet, like Marissa, like Elisa Nichols, if you're familiar with her from The Secret, you know, just a number of just really epically amazing people. Um, Marissa really wanted me to take a look at RTT and give her my, ideas and what I thought and how it could be positioned in the marketplace or how it could be better positioned in the marketplace, how we could share it with more people and the impact. So I was able to do RTT, to take that program from that space. However, the journey to healing, all of this started, way before then. I was fortunate. I was really fortunate back in my 20s to have met a beautiful man that actually introduced me to the world of personal development, which I didn't know anything about. And it really was personal development that that kind of changed the trajectory of my life and really in a large way saved my life. And so I had no, I mean, I had never forgot the experience. I can tell you what pajamas I had on the first time it happened when I was 4 years old. So it wasn't something that I, ever didn't remember and didn't know.
Mhm.
But I'm going to tell you, it was something that I wasn't able to fully heal until well into my mid 30s. I did a number of things that I thought would help, but as far as truly healing it, yeah, that was really in my mid 30s. And even RTT, even still, even, later in my 40s, when I did develop a relationship with Marissa and had an opportunity to experience RTT, I was able to access, other parts of the hurt and the pain and, that was still there. So definitely it helped me a lot to understand. I think the biggest gift that I got from RTT, using RTT to help dissolve any remnants that was left, is that RTT gave me the ability to see the molestation from the perspective of the person who had done it,
Mm.
and understand what his thinking was, and it gave me so much compassion for him. It freed me,
Yeah.
really, because RTT allowed me to see it from a different way that I had never been able to do before. That allowed me to heal it even deeper than I ever had before.
Well, and in my book, I talk about a lot of different like kinds of healing modalities that I learned about after my awakening.
Mhm.
So I'm definitely curious to hear maybe some of the things that you had tried to heal. Like,
Mhm.
was it mostly traditional means like talk therapy, or was it like tapping, or like what were some of the
Yeah.
healing things that you tried?
Absolutely. So in the beginning, when I first recognized the impact that this had on my life, which that I learned that in college, really, when I was trying to have a relationship with a man who I knew was my soulmate, but able to I wasn't able to have a successful relationship, but I knew something was wrong. I started talk therapy, and unfortunately it did absolutely nothing. Right. It did absolutely nothing. But I'm going to tell you, listen, I am so open. So I've tried everything. The first thing that made the thing that made the biggest difference, I will say, in my life was EFT. It's the emotional freedom technique. And I learned it from a beautiful man named Dr. Lee Poulos. He is a therapist in Canada. And I had found a program of his, and it was called The Biology of Empowerment. And it was all about how to, how to infuse success into you at a cellular level. But there was so much healing that came from that. So, in EFT, includes tapping. I've done chakra healing, certainly RTT. There's a beautiful woman also in Canada who teaches something called the heart freedom technique, which, I absolutely love. So, it was anything that I felt like could get deeper and deeper and deeper. Because I'm going to tell you, I know I've done some amazing things in my life, and I won't even say in spite of, right? Like how I started, I've done some amazing things in life. I would say fueled by what has happened to me over the course of my life. And I know there's so much more work for me to do. I know that people are hurting. I know that people are suffering. And I know it's my calling to truly empower people, to go out and live their highest and best lives and grow and contribute. So I have so much more work to do. So anything that would dissipate my run, right? Like my run to that place, my run to fully live the life that I believe I was called. I believe I was called by God. You may say the universe, or it doesn't even matter. Whatever that light is that you are following, I believe, for me, I am called by that light to a higher level. And so anything that would dissipate my run towards that light, I need to get rid of it. I need to lighten it up. And so any modality that could help me, I'm open.
Yeah.
Like I'm open.
Well, let's talk for a minute. I know maybe it was one of our first conversations, you were kind of sharing about how an awakening in your life really kind of shifted your perspective. And I say consciousness, but why don't you talk about that and just maybe where it happened in your life and how that fits into sort of where you are today?
Yeah, it's interesting. I really believe that that everything happens for us. I truly believe that with all of my being. And in 2009, I woke up, Amy, and I woke up one day 60 pounds overweight, $2 million in debt, and severely depressed. And all of that happened as a result of having lost a once very lucrative real estate company that I owned. And and I really laid down on my life. Like I literally ended up getting a job with a master's degree. And, again, having created a $5 million business, I remember getting a job earning $14 an hour at a bank because my level of self-worth at the time couldn't allow me to see anything past that. I was so sad and despondent and gosh, I can't even think of another adjective to describe, right?
I got the feeling.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty bad right now.
Yes, right. Exactly.
Really.
Exactly. And and again, it happened for me because, as a result of that, as a result of that, I'm going to tell you, like, I knew that that wasn't the life that was intended for me. And so, you know, uh, again, I continue to go on this journey, and I continue to work, and I continue to, heal. Um, but where that led me to a couple of years later, about 36 months later, from that very bottom, I had, created another business. That business was starting to create some success, but I knew I still needed to break free. So I decided to take myself on my little own sabbatical. And I literally rented I moved myself to the Dominican Republic for 3 months. And I rented this little condo on the beach. It was hilarious. And every day, Amy, I would run, right? Now, mind you, I was 60 pounds overweight. So it was like, it was more like a jog, right? Like a fast.
It's hard to run on sand. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. It's hard to run on sand too, especially when you're 60 pounds overweight. and, um, and so no, I would run in air quotes, a mile down the beach and then walk back and then do personal development every day. And I did this every day.
So like YouTube videos, like
no, actually, that program that I was talking about, Dr. Poulos, the biology of empowerment, I did that program.
Okay.
Literally every single day. I did that program every single day, and I would listen to other books as well on Audible. But that was like the main programming I did around healing, um, around my awakening. And I'm going to tell you, I emerged from the Dominican Republic 3 months later, but I had grown 30,000 feet.
Mm.
I wasn't the same. I was a different person. I happened to be married at the time. And my ex-husband says, yeah, my wife never came back from the Dominican Republic.
Oh, I
And
just got
he's
chills.
right. Yeah, yeah. And he was right because I'm going to tell you, it was so interesting. Before the Dominican Republic, all my friends called me Cecilia. That's my first name. That's my full name. I was named after my beautiful Aunt Cecilia. I was Cecilia. And I remember being on the plane, going back from the Dominican Republic back to my home. And I met this beautiful woman on the plane. And she said, hi, what's your name? And I don't know, as if it emerged from, I don't know, my heart and from heaven and came out of my mouth. I said, my name is CeCe. And that's who I've been ever since. That's who I am. Like when I talk to myself, I talk to CeCe. Like that is me. And so I always say, Cleveland, Ohio is my birthplace. Dominican Republic is my rebirth place.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of cool that even happened, because my whole awakening happened when we were able to move for a year and, just kind of stop everything. And I feel like because you have that space,
correct,
you can expand into it.
There is something about space and walls. Let me explain that. Right? So you're absolutely right. I had the space in terms of I was in this little condo on the beach by myself. My husband at the time was back in Dallas, Texas. So my days were my days, right? My time was my time. I still, we had a business. We had started another business. I was still working my business, but I had space to grow and develop. But let's talk about walls. There is something about, the walls that I was living inside when that business went bust, right? Like it's hard to redevelop your mind looking at the same walls. breathing the same oxygen, being in the same energy. So I needed to physically remove myself from those walls, that oxygen, and that energy in order to create the life that I truly deserved, in order to be the me that I knew that I was.
Mhm.
You absolutely, I am not surprised one bit that that's how your awakening came as well.
Yeah. Whew, if everybody could just pick up and move, like maybe that's can be our like new project is like get away from your life for 8 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just yeah.
It'll transform everything. You won't be the same. I mean, you won't be the same. You'll be the best version of yourself. I'm going to tell you, like, CeCe is the best version of me.
Yeah. Whew, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I feel like you're just I mean, when we met, I was like, I need to be this woman's friend because, that Jim Rohn quote about you being the average of the 5 people you're around, like, I want those people around me. And like you said, you can see it in someone else. Like, you just know that's the fire. It's that
Yeah.
attraction, like, somehow that it just draws you to them and they fill you in a way that someone of a lower vibration or a lower energy is just not going to do.
Yeah. It's absolute. I totally 1000% agree with that. And I've been very intentional about my 5. I've been very intentional about my 5. I remember a day was it was I can't remember exactly when, but I remember a day. I think it was post awakening. Yeah, it was post awakening. It was post the Dominican Republic. And I remember looking at my phone, Amy, and I had 5 unread text messages. And one of them asked, 2 of them asked me to borrow money. One of them was asking me to borrow my car. One asked me if I would take them out to dinner. And the 5th was saying, how are you? And I remember looking at these text messages saying, wow, if this is my average, then I need to do something to raise my average.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that very moment, I became intentional. I became intentional in putting myself into situations where I got to be around people that I wanted to be. I wanted to be the average of. I wanted to, I wanted people around me that would make me stretch. That would force me to grow, that I had to grow in order to get to my average. And, and there were a number of ways that I did that. I mean, I joined this very elite mastermind at one point. And, just to make sure that I was in the right energy so that I would have people that would make me stretch. And again, because everything happens for us, as a result of being a part of that mastermind is how I ended up in this community where I met Marissa, for example, and again, so many other people like her. it was hilarious. I was in Columbus. I was thinking about, like, how is this real for me? Like, that was this kid. I again grew up in inner city Cleveland, Ohio. You know, single mom, dad in jail half of my youth, right? Like, but I'm in Columbus. Marissa and I are in her suite, and we're just laughing, we're talking, and we decide to call one of our other girlfriends. Our other girlfriend just happens to be this amazing Hollywood actress. and, and, and so Marissa and I are on video. We're leaving our girlfriend a video message and we're like, yeah, we all need to get together. Marissa's like, come out to my house. I want you to have dinner with me. She says, yes, come and have dinner. Maria Shriver is coming for dinner on Thursday. Come on Friday. And I'm sitting here like, how does this happen? Right? How does this happen? It happens by being intentional about the 5 people. It's about being intentional, about those 5 people. And listen, here's the reality. I feel that's my world. There was nothing uncomfortable. There was nothing uncomfortable for me. Those are the people that I have grown myself so that I get to feel comfortable in those environments.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's not like you're faking it or not fitting in. Like you have evolved yourself. You have grown yourself and your business. And now you are one of those 5 people.
Absolutely.
And now you're that person for other people.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about. And that's absolutely what it's about.
Yeah.
That's important for me. That's very important for me.
It's important for me too. And I talk about it in my book because I had got this opportunity to meet Gary Vaynerchuk.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about him a lot, which I just noticed. But I felt like I wanted to be his friend, sort of like the way you're friends with Marissa. And I don't know why I felt that, but I just have been sort of going through this trajectory in my mind of like, how do you get to be that? Like, I mean, obviously it's when you're offering the other person something, maybe a value, or you're at the same level somehow because you're both at a dinner for a fundraiser, or you're both at a mastermind group that you've paid to get into. And, it just, I don't know, that's a thought that I've had recently is how, how you get to be there.
Yeah.
But you said
yeah, you know what it is? It's a couple of different things. I'll tell you. It's about, so I used to call it, having mentors at a distance, right? And so I'll talk about my experience. One of those people that was a mentor at a distance for me, there's this beautiful woman. Her name is Lisa Nichols. She is an international speaker, author, coach. You've seen her. She was in the movie The Secret. You've probably seen her there. You've probably seen her on Oprah Winfrey Show, or maybe on the Steve Harvey Show, or maybe on the Today Show, or she is just an incredible woman who has a beautiful story and a command of language like no one I've ever heard. She uses language to create heart experiences that just will blow your mind, right? And so I decided that I wanted her to be my mentor at a distance. And that's what I did. So I watched all her videos. I, just was trying to truly connect with her and her work, on a spiritual level, almost like I wanted to, on an energetic level. That's the word I'm looking for. On an energetic level, I wanted to connect with her work. And in doing that, here's what happens. Here's how the universe unfolds. In doing that and making that choice and watching all of this, there came a time where I discovered she was going to be in my town. I was living in Dallas, Texas at the time. So I invested in her event and I invested in VIP. So from within, 36 hours of deciding that this woman was my mentor at a distance, and starting to study her work, I'm literally in a room with her with, maybe 8-10 other people having a conversation, sitting around a table. And then that led me to just participating in some of her programs. But again, because I had embodied so much of her work, at an energetic level, when she heard me speak, she didn't hear CeCe, she heard herself. She heard her own thoughts because I was so connected. So that pulled her in closer to me.
Mhm.
right? Like that. So yeah, I was seeking her, but because I was, again, living my life, doing my life, but truly, embodying the spirit of her work, that pulled her to me.
Mhm.
She ended up, not only did she ask me to eventually, about, within a year and a half, ask me to come and run the global partnerships division of her multi 7-figure business. Um, it was really a situation where, my mentor became my boss, and then my boss became my friend. I mean, we traveled the world together, Amy. We really helped thousands and thousands of people to transform their lives by our partnership, and our friendship. And that was just born out of me really, again, being intentional, connecting with that work, always adding value,
Mhm.
always adding value, not value for the sake of, oh, I want this, but value for the sake of, I am someone who, that's my identity. I am someone who creates value, and creating enough value in her life said, no, 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 I want this woman in my life more. And that pulled her to me. We're friends to this day. I worked for her for 2 years, created some tremendous impact, and retired 2 years later, and still, you know, have a beautiful relationship with her because of that foundation level work.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that definitely gives me the answer. I feel like I knew that there was kind of a path, and
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me, let me think where I want to go with this. What kind of things now do you do? So post awakening, like what I want to say, what kind of practices do you do
Mhm.
to continue to grow? But maybe before we go there, I want to find out like what changed in you after this time besides your name. What like really tangibly changed? Was it relationship? Was it career? Was it
Mm.
family? You have kids?
Everything changed. Amy, everything changed. When Cecilia became CeCe, everything in her life, right? Cecilia's life fell away and CeCe's life emerged. One of the first, and one of the first things that fell away was a marriage. A marriage that had served its purpose so beautifully, right? If it wasn't for that marriage, I wouldn't have. Again, it was my ex-husband who introduced me to personal development, you know? So so that marriage had served me and given me everything that God knew that I needed. It had helped heal me in a lot of different ways. It had helped show me that this is how I deserve to be treated. It was a marriage that proved to me, wait, you can, just because you grew up poor doesn't mean you have to be poor for the rest of your life, financially, right? I was rich in love and experiences and things like that, but financially we were poor when I grew up, and so just, the marriage served me in that it taught me, no, you get to control what kind of impact you have on the world. And based on that impact you have on the world, that's going to show up as a dollar amount in your bank account. you know so that certainly felt, but that time had come, and it fell away with my awakening. There were people that were in my life that lovingly fell away. Like they're still there, but they just don't necessarily impact me because they're not a part of the five anymore. And
Mhm.
so they've fallen away, if you will. I still love them. But they definitely fell away. A big thing that fell away from me, Amy, was weight. During that journey, I had released I released 60 pounds, you know, that it fell away. It just fell away. So yeah, when you awaken a lot of things that would hold you down, the real you, the you that's emerging, all of those things that would have prevented me from being CeCe, those marriages, those people, that body fat, all of those things that wouldn't allow CeCe to be CeCe, they needed to fall away. And they did. And I didn't have to struggle. It wasn't a struggle. I'd say it to people all the time, oh my gosh, if you ever get divorced, you want to have a divorce like I had a divorce, right? Like, don't get me wrong. There were parts of it that were difficult. We had a 7-figure business at the time. We had started an IT consulting company. And so getting through the financial piece was hard. But once we made it through the financial piece and we could just be ourselves, it was beautiful. Right? It was beautiful. So there wasn't any struggle aside from the financial piece. The people that have fallen away, there was no struggle there. There was no arguments, no nothing. There was no struggle. The weight fell off. I just would look around like, look in the mirror like, wow, oh my gosh, like how did this happen? Yeah. I just like, wait, when did I start wanting to go to the gym? Like, when did that happen? That's never been me. Like, there was no struggle.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sure everyone is saying that's how I want it to happen for me.
It will. It does, right? Like it does now. It doesn't always, in the moment, it doesn't always feel easy, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But it certainly isn't necessarily a struggle. If you think about a butterfly coming out of a cocoon, they are from the outside. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I've seen it. I was at this beautiful butterfly sanctuary, and I stood there for 20 minutes watching this butterfly come out of this cocoon, and you could see their little limbs inside flailing and moving and stretching, and you could see the cocoon, and right, like it was just moving and undulating, like you could see it. It was amazing. But I'm going to tell you, so it may have been uncomfortable for that butterfly. He may have been stretching and straining, but it wasn't stress, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It stretched him, the little butterfly, but it didn't necessarily stress him.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And I think that would probably definitely be the words that other people use. Like when you grow, sometimes it's not that it's painful, but you want to stretch yourself. You want it to be a little uncomfortable enough that you want to move past it.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, exactly. You want to get on the other side of it. Yeah. Absolutely. Without question. But I'm going to tell you, man, boy, oh boy, life on the other side. Life on the other side. If I could do it all over again, the one thing I would have said, the one thing that 47-year-old CeCe would have said to 37-year-old CeCe that was sad and depressed and overweight and all of this, I would have said, CeCe, run, get to the other side faster, run as hard as you can, get there faster, because I'm going to tell you what life looks like over here. I don't want you to miss one single solitary day of it.
Ooh, again, chills. It's to me.
Good.
Ooh, that's amazing. Well, the reason we got in contact really was because when I met you, I was like, you're a business coach? Like, I probably need a business coach. So tell us all a little bit about maybe what you do now and how people can reach you.
Absolutely. So, here's the funny thing. I truly believe that God gives us all like some gifts and some talents, and they're ours to own. And one of the gifts that he gave me was understanding how to create money. Like, I understand how to create money. I know how to do it. Like, my first business, okay, I have to stop by and tell you this. So, Amy, my first business, I was in maybe fourth grade, and I used to sell Pac-Man shaped French fries outside of my home in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, I'm sure you may have some millennial podcast listeners that are like, CeCe, what's a Pac-Man?
Oh no, it's so like vintage that people know what it is.
Right, exactly. So I would literally take potatoes and slice them in the shape of a Pac-Man, right? And then fry them up and sell them to people in my neighborhood. And the reason I chose Pac-Man is because I did the math, Amy, and I realized that the margins on lemonade were too small for me.
Amen, sister.
Okay. And so from that moment, like from that day, like it's always been in me. Like I always knew that I was designed to create impact and to create income, and that because I would be able to use that income to do things, right? Like I loved making money and then going to buy my little niece a gift, or take my nephew on an experience. I loved that. So I knew that I needed to create financial impact to do the things that gave my heart joy, which was always about pouring into other people. All right. And so again, that was one of those gifts that God gave me. And from the beginning of my awakening, I knew, again, I by the time I had awakened, I had already created, a multiple seven-figure business, and another business that at that time of the awakening was already at multiple six figures on its way to seven. And so this was something that I knew. For me, it was prescriptive. It's A and then B and then C, and then it's 1 and then it's 2 and then it's 3. And it was all about, I knew how to create a particular dollar amount by a particular date. I knew how to do it. I didn't understand how, but I knew how to do it. And so what I always wanted when, again, post-awakening, the business that I wanted to have is I wanted to create a business where I got to teach people that. I got to teach people, I've done it so many times that I actually ended up developing a program around it, creating $40,000 in 40 days. And I would do this. Be in these situations in my life where, I needed 40 grand and I needed it in a very short time. And so like I would go on this run, right? I called it my 40-day run, and I would go on a run and create this $40,000 and take me just over a month. And I did it multiple times and multiple times and multiple times, right? And so again, post-awakening, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach people that. I wanted to empower people in that way. Here's what I learned. I learned that I can teach people the ABCs. I can teach people the 1, 2, 3s. I can give them the exact recipe. But if their hearts are still not healed from whatever broke their hearts in the beginning, their cake, right, that I'm teaching them to bake is not going to taste the same as my cake. The results are going to vary, And so what I discovered is I needed to do both halves. I needed to help people heal their hearts so that it wasn't pulling them back. But I also knew that, I wanted people to have a system of doing things. So today, and then I also knew, let me tell you what I also knew. I also knew that there was an intersection between health and wealth, right? I knew that what shows up on your body often shows up in your bank account.
Okay.
I'll say it this way. When I had a $5 million business, I was the same weight as I was when I was a cute little senior in high school, right? I was the same. I was the same size. Like literally, as a $5 million business owner, I was as small as I was when I was a senior in high school. Now, when I had $1 million business, I was about the same weight as I was after the freshman 15. Right? Not too bad, but not the same. When I was $2 million in debt, I was 60 pounds overweight. Right?
Wow.
So I knew that there was an intersection between those two. So, and I knew that that was something that I wanted to share with people as well. So a few years back, so after creating this amazing coaching business and really helping people in that way, I was introduced to a nutrition company that ticked all the boxes for me, right? Like it ticked all the boxes in terms of, I had finally learned what good nutrition was and how it impacted my body and how it impacted my brain and how it impacted my ability to heal, right? How it impacted everything. So it ticked all the boxes for me, but it also had this ridiculously simple system that I could use and teach people how to create an income, like a residual income. And it was like, oh my God, wait a minute. I was teaching entrepreneurs how to make money. And here's the thing, I can teach, I would teach a 6-figure earner how to move to multiple 6 figures, or I would have a multiple 6-figure earner move to 7 figures. But it takes a huge investment of time and resources and money. And I'm like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me I can teach people for, I don't know, $600 that they would then turn around and eat, by the way, how to create a multiple 6 or a 7-figure income? Are you kidding me? This is a no-brainer. So I really started partnering with that company to teach more important people how to do that. So so most of my life is spent identifying people who are driven, who are passionate, who are into health and fitness, who love people, who are full of integrity. And I teach them how to create a 6-figure income from home in their part-time hours. Literally. And it's just the most beautiful thing ever. Now, for those other businesses that are 6 figures that still want to move to that multiple 6, 7-figure, I still coach them as well. I love those folks. They're always going to be around. I could do that in my sleep. And so I definitely still do that. But what I really love, where the bulk of my energy goes, are to these people that are like, CeCe, I want to transform my health, the health of my family, and my financial lot in life too. And I love that I get to teach them the basics of entrepreneurism that opens and expands their mind to create that first 6 figures, because I know when I can get them there, they'll create everything else.
Yeah.
7 figures is just around the corner.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's what I do. That's what I get to do.
Aw. Daughter's trying to get in.
My mom's trying to get in.
We better let them in.
And I'm like, stop it.
Well, thank you so much for being on, and
I absolutely
so
love
glad that
spending time with you.
have met you, and look forward to our friendship, or wherever
Absolutely.
this leads, and
All of the above.
all of the above.
Yeah.
So, do you want to direct people to your website, or?
Actually, you know what? It's so funny. I'm an engager. I love connecting with people, engaging with people. And I have a website, it's great. You can go to it. But to connect with me, just come and hang out with me on either Instagram or Facebook. Message me, send me a messenger. But you can find me everywhere at JustAskCeCe. So JustAskCeCe. And people ask me all the time, wait, CeCe President, what are you the president of? No, my last name really is President. So, so yeah, I always say, yep, hashtag First Lady. So no, so come and visit me at Just Ask CeCe on Facebook or Instagram. Connect with me. I'd love to know your heart. I'd love to know, what I can support you with. I always say that I have conversations with people and I listen to what they say and then I hear for what they're praying for.
Mm.
And if I have a solution for what they're praying for, I'll offer them my solution and my support. And if my solution isn't for them, I'm just going to offer them my prayers. And that's what I
Oh,
do.
well, thank you. That is amazing. Well,
Thank
thanks for
you.
being here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I love you, girl. Have an amazing day. It's so great
Thank
to be with you.
you.